What's up, guys? Welcome back to F1 America.
Too broke to actually install the sound effects. So, live from the paddock. I got a lot to talk about. The
Saudi Arabia
GP.
Prix.
Yeah, I was like, what race were we just at?
Yeah,
Yeah, I took a bunch of notes because there's just a bunch of bullshit going
a
on.
lot. It's still Horner drama, still Red Bull drama, a lot going on there.
So just some stuff on helmet.
Helmet, Marco.
I don't know why it sounds so stupid saying his first name.
Well, because you're a race.
Maybe that's maybe because I actually go like, oh, what kind of helmet we were.
But it's spelled differently, right?
Yeah, it's
with a U.
HELMUT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Helmut. I don't know.
Helmut, Marco.
Yeah, I mean, we could just start with diving into the race. And the first 5 seconds of the race is Lando's jump I had, which I got into like not really an argument. It was just like people like trying to say their opinion, which everybody's entitled to their own opinion. My comment is on the whole Lando jumping the start thing. He's completely stopped. He didn't. If he would have carried his momentum from the jump, then yeah, for sure, give him a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same token, I've gotten some people try to argue like, oh, my biggest point is he stopped, didn't carry his momentum. He didn't gain an advantage.
Yeah.
And you can't penalize him 10 laps, 15 laps, whatever the number of laps later. Like, if they would have did it first lap, second lap, within the first 3 laps, okay, fine, penalize them.
Yeah.
But you can't go give out a penalty and everybody wants to say, oh, you could give out a penalty 10 laps, 15 laps, even after the race. I'm like, no, that's poor race management with how much technology you have and how many people are watching it. You guys will fire off penalties left and right for Ocon, Checo, whoever,
everybody, right?
Everybody in a super fast amount of time. But you don't want to.
Yeah,
My Swiffer sweeper stepping in here. But then you want to wait forever to even acknowledge it. Like I think they waited 15 laps to even acknowledge the penalty, and so
now,
it's unacceptable.
He did stop before the line, right?
Yeah.
On that, so I think obviously maybe they got it right. They didn't give him a penalty.
So I guess
there's another rule that says even if you start like false start at all, you get a penalty, right?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the rules because I don't have the time to go read through every single page of the rule book. I have better things to do with my life.
But also a lot of it is contradictory, right? Like,
yeah.
In this case, this works, and it's kind of like a lawyer arguing the point.
Yeah. Everybody said like, oh, what about Bottas when this happened, or what about Lewis when this happened, or last week somebody else did it and or everybody else jumped on the gate too. The thing is, the biggest thing I saw is somebody said it didn't trigger the sensor or something like that. And then also there was a rule change in 2016, 2018. Don't quote me on that, but that's based on what I've seen from everybody else as well. Is that because he didn't move a certain amount or he stayed within his driver's box, that's why he didn't get the penalty. I think they made the right call for once, yes. But the fact that people are trying to even still argue it, I think is just null and void. You guys are all stupid.
Well, I think we run into another issue of the FIA kind of contradicting itself.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, well, finally we have, if you go over track limits at any corner, you get a penalty, right? So like, great. Finally, it's not just one corner, it is a track limit, one it's not. So hopefully it's getting better, but here's another opportunity of the contradiction of, well, you're supposed to get a penalty if you have a false start at all. Oh, but sort of if you're inside the box or you stop before the start, or so there's always some gray area.
I think it's not black and white. People are trying to make it black and white. I think everything's situational. I don't think, like I said, I don't think Lando gained anything from it. Like he didn't just jump directly into the lead like from that. He didn't carry any.
I would think almost that it puts you at a disadvantage.
Exactly.
Because you're like, oh shit,
like a jump,
and then you're
pause.
Just a little bit behind when the light actually does turn.
Yeah.
Because you got that, you got it wrong a little bit, but
I took a bunch of notes, so let's see. What else do I have to rant about today?
Yeah, I don't think he really gained an advantage. Like you said, I think the fact that they're still talking about it at lap 15, it's kind of.
Like at that point, you need to move on. You need to move on and just
the race too boring that we had to, continue that. Yeah.
I got a hot take for you.
I like hot takes.
I think Ollie Behrman's rookie debut fill-in ride was better than George Russell's.
At Williams?
Yeah. No, George Russell at... Oh, sorry, I forgot. Well, technically his up It wasn't his debut, I guess. Sorry. So Williams
His
or
shot
sorry,
in the
his
Mercedes?
shot in the Mercedes. I think it was more impressive than Ollie. Or sorry, God, I'm backwards. Ollie's drive was
Yeah.
better than
George Russell.
George's time in the Mercedes. The
Was
reason
that,
being,
was that was same? That was Jeddah too, wasn't it?
no, it was Bahrain.
Oh, it was
I'm
Bahrain.
like 90% sure it was Bahrain.
I forget because Jeddah used to be at the end of the,
Yeah,
and now
no,
it's like
it's
race
moved
2.
around.
Yeah.
So the reason why I say that is Ollie's. I mean, to my knowledge, he spent 40 minutes, an hour at most in the car before
Well,
this.
he qualified pole for F2,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden got thrown into F1. The next day.
yeah, so he's gotten minimal time in an F1 car. I mean, they're
Mhm.
all relatively. You figured out, kind of like Piastri said, just get in and drive the damn thing.
Yeah.
And then he got a bunch of points, rookie drive, fighting like big guys, K Mags, lots of seasoned guys fighting for those positions.
Well, George would have won the race if they didn't fuck up the pit stop and he got a puncture.
Correct, but the reason why I say that, you could put anybody in the field in that car and they probably would have been in the top 3 because that car was so light years.
Yeah, but
in advance.
okay, but then you got to say Ferrari's also good, right? Bierman got what, 7th?
I think you got 6. No,
Six,
7.
I think 7th. One of the two, 6th or
Yeah.
7th, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, did George end up getting DNF?
No, I thought they retired the car.
That's what I mean. DNF did nothing.
Yeah, which
But because of no fault of his own, after he's essentially leading the whole race, right?
right. But the point I'm making though is that car was light years ahead. Like if this was put Ollie in Schumacher's car when he was dominating, I'm sure he would have won too.
Or a Red Bull right now.
Yeah. So because of the times and like that car was already proven, the Mercedes car was already proven to work. Ferrari's still kind of a work in progress. Like Carlos and Charles have been fast, but
hey, look, I'm not trying to disagree with you. I just think George did drive really well that day and got kind of screwed.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
But I no disrespect to Ollie because I thought that kid was tits, man. He crushed it. We were actually talking kind of through text, and sort of like what, like if Piastri came in and crushed it, Liam Lawson came in last year and crushed it. Ollie Beardman now just comes in and crushes it. Like, why are some of the teams not looking towards that next generation to try and find that good talent? And is it because Red Bulls tried to do that a little too soon or maybe forceful and, didn't have success with Gasly and Albon and or is Red Bull environment not great for rookies?
It's probably a combination of things, right? Like I think there's certain guys that'll thrive under that pressure, like Max thrives under like
but
shit, I got to drive to say.
But they gave him a lot more opportunity than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, his first few seasons he crashed a lot.
Yeah, and Daniel was part of that like very young development talent, and he was really good as well, right? But I think there's a combination of things. Red Bull was probably a little harder. Maybe Pierre didn't play as much politics. Alex didn't play as much politics.
And I mean, their car wasn't as good as it is now.
Exactly. So they were also fighting a car that they've been chasing Mercedes. So they were probably like, well, if you're not going to go beat Mercedes, and Max was the only one consistently, and Daniel were the only ones consistently like throwing a punch,
at least trying,
at Mercedes. Versus Alex, Pierre, they were mid-pack guys. They were getting points, but they weren't like winning. They weren't throwing jabs and knockout punches.
Close to Max's time.
Correct. Yeah. So I think then that's something you got to consider. I think the combination, these guys see like how much time maybe Max spends on the sim, like in the sim technology is so much better, and obviously their cars are going to continue to improve. So I think these cars are
when
better.
Nobody likes you and you have no social life, you just go and race sim on your days off.
I mean, if I was him, I'm going to races to win.
Dude,
I don't
he's
need
crushing right now, man.
I don't need anybody to like me.
Dude, the Red Bull's on fire. Max is on fire. I mean, just continuing from last year, like nobody can touch him. No, it's not even close.
I said it last season or the beginning of this season. I mean, I would love to honestly see an undefeated year. As boring as it'll be for everybody watching, I would love to just witness that.
Just to see that in our lifetime. Yeah. I just don't want it to be Max.
Yeah,
I mean, at this point, I don't care. Like, I think they're so far removed from everything now. I think that Red Bull itself is going to be its only detriment at this point. If they self-implode, that's going to be the only thing that ruins their season.
So, actually, let me finish this comment on the... So, I think the cars are different, too. now than maybe they were. And then we're also in this awkward time frame of like there's so many seasons guys still there, and then also so many guys kind of coming up. And you kind of don't like everybody was already locked in, so like Liam's in this awkward spot of like, well, I'm just kind of sitting around waiting for somebody's contract or somebody to really screw up. And that's kind of where all these new guys are like, well, we're just playing a waiting game now. So it's cool. Kind of a perfect storm.
It's cool that when they do get an opportunity, even as a fill-in driver, that they're performing.
Yeah.
It's cool for the sport and seeing what maybe the future holds. It's also just cool to see those guys able to step up and
adapt really quickly.
Yeah.
It's sad though, it's obviously, I think it would make that midfield race even better because I think obviously seeing, okay, Berryman straight off the couch is battling for points. I think you throw Liam in there, he's going to be battling for points. I think, even Nico's been on fire in quali. And then he also, K-Mag and Nico combination, they got points together essentially, which was crazy.
We're talking about like replacing them with the young guys, but they're still racing really well.
Yeah.
I think if they were in better cars, they'd obviously be further up.
I'd love to see, you put Nico in a Mercedes, a Ferrari, a Red Bull, and see where he lands. Is he on par with Sergio? Is he on par with Alonso? I wish you could just do like a random driver shuffle race and just see kind of what happens.
Have people drive other people's cars.
Oh, Max is in a Mercedes today and see like how he does, and that way you truly see like, I guess that's the one thing that's good about NASCAR, right? Is like obviously there's car setup, but it's all very spec driven.
So they all kind of have the same cars.
That's my understanding. Like there's obviously minimal changes you can make, and I'm pretty sure Jordan touched on this too when he was on the show. There's minimal changes you can make, and then it's all about setup and driver because they want it to be a very fairly equal driving platform.
I know that sport is just I still don't understand that.
I've been watching that new documentary and the Full Speed on Netflix, and it's been pretty good. It's only 5 episodes, so you don't have to bore yourself. But they also fill it in really good. They did it pretty much just like Drive to Survive. They show the behind the scenes stuff, the team talk, clips of racing, so you're not watching 400 laps of left turns. I think one race actually would be really cool to watch is it's called the Roval, so it's like half oval and then half road course.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So that would be a good race.
I see if they did more road courses, I'd be more into it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about I know there's technique and there's drafting and there's all that stuff, but it's kind of boring to me.
For sure.
I don't. It's like how you can all of a sudden be from like 6th and then you're in the lead and then somebody from 10th just comes and takes the lead. You're like, what? I just don't understand it. Maybe.
Yeah, in that documentary, if you really look at it, it definitely helps shine the light.
It does.
On that. But Kimmy drove a NASCAR ride last year, and it was like, and he had a lot of good things to say about NASCAR compared to F1.
Yeah.
So, let me see, what other notes do I got here? So we talked about we could talk about, I guess, the Haas for a minute here. K-Mag with 20 seconds worth of penalties, which was absolute bullshit.
That screwed me in fantasy.
I can't remember what it actually was that started. I think the one was technically, was it forcing Yuki off the track or some shit like that? I think there was one penalty for that. And I forgot what the other penalty was for offhand because it's been a couple days now. But
1 or 2 of them, or maybe did he got 2, but they're really harsh.
They're both 10-second.
10 second, which is like, crazy.
What for that? And even the announcers were like, 10 seconds for that? Like, are you serious?
Yeah, and one of them I don't even think really should have been like a penalty.
Yeah. I want to say it was the one for him defending against Yuki.
I think so.
Or I think it was gaining advantage off the track, and he wasn't off the track. If anything, Yuki pushed him.
Yeah, and he was still ahead. I think, right? He was still ahead.
Yeah,
and they gave him 10 seconds for that one.
Yeah,
because he went on. Yeah, I thought because he didn't give the place up, but I think he still had the place, and maybe he would have lost it if he, I don't know, but either way, harsh.
Yeah, what I just love about K-Mag is his just don't give a shit mentality. He's just like, you're gonna earn it just as much as Nico's gonna earn it, and you're like, I'm not pulling over. And he ended up helping
Nico get points.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, and even the commentators were kind of talking like, does he know and he's helping, or does he just not know? Like,
well, they said like, if I'm his engineer, I'm not telling him.
Right.
Yeah, and like I'd probably the smartest play because you might as well just let him drive.
Because he was defending the wheels off like nobody could pass him.
Yeah.
Which was fun to watch.
Shows
kind of like
shows the experience.
Hamilton trying to get past Alonso.
Yeah,
like dude.
I think it was like half the race was like that.
Yeah,
with just him like giving hell to Yuki, which I was fine with. Yuki was annoying at that point. Like Yuki made Q3, good for Yuki. Like, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be in Q3 every week. And that's back to my point, and I will, or not even back to my point. We'll just dive into my next point. is that Yuki is just absolutely overrated. Can't
Yeah,
get
we
if you
talk about
can't
it
get
every
past
week.
K-Mag, like,
You know what's
and
funny
you're
is
supposed to be this elite driver.
the Red Flags
No.
pod, they love Yuki.
Yeah, they love Yuki. I fucking
They love Yuki.
They
And now,
had
okay,
said some stupid
maybe
shit this week. I saw something. And I
yeah,
was like,
maybe
what
if
are you
we spent
talking
time
about?
with them and we got to be buddies, like sure,
No.
like, but I don't know, man. I think he's underperforming.
Yeah, no, Yuki's
You know,
Yuki. The only reason why Yuki has a seat is because of Honda.
yeah.
Because-
That seemed pretty clear in Drive to Survive.
Yeah, and and was it Drive to Survive or something else I was watching that they said like for there to be.
Oh, maybe it was something else. Maybe
I
it was
saw a video that said like part of the deal is that they want a Japanese driver
Yeah.
in the car.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, if it works, cool. But if it doesn't work, and you're just as good as Mazepin at that point. Daddy owns the team, or part owner in the team, or big sponsor on
Yeah.
the team, so you're gonna give him a ride, like.
Well, I mean, that's how politics work, bro.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know,
Oh no, he was.
but
the other thing
I would like to see Liam Lawson in that seat instead.
for sure. For
You
sure.
know,
Yuki was complaining about K-Mag like driving him rough, and I don't think K-Mag was driving bad at all. He never
no.
put anything in danger. I think because he didn't hand over the spot to Yuki, Yuki just wants to complain.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do, right? Like they all kind of argue the politics during the race, even.
Yeah. I'm like, you gotta focus on driving. Dude. You don't need to-
Even like who was Hamilton defending against, and that was dangerous. Like moving under brake. He wasn't moving under braking.
Oh, and Hamilton was doing the same
know
thing the whole rest of the
He
race.
he wasn't though.
Hamilton?
Yeah.
You're high. You were smoking something. I watched him move like 3 laps in a row. Like he like weaved. It wasn't nearly as bad.
But he moved once. He didn't.
No, he went over and then he came right back outside. So he didn't just like, okay, cool, I'm gonna block inside. He would like start. He's like, oh, I'm gonna start defending, and then he's like, oh, now I gotta make my arc for the corner. It's like, bro, like don't. When Lando, I think it was Lando. Lando was doing the same thing. Lando and him did the exact same thing, and Lando maybe wouldn't have been as smooth about it.
Yeah.
But and then that's just what like
relax it.
drive the car. You guys are all prima donnas.
Well, and they're all like prima donna drama, right?
Yeah.
Hi, buddy.
You're in the show.
At least look at the camera.
Yeah,
bro.
you're looking the wrong way. Look over there.
Look right here.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Great secretary here. McLaren struggling with that straight line speed.
What is that?
I don't know.
What is that? I was
Well,
really
they just
surprised,
couldn't
honestly.
do shit. Like they were driving that thing,
They don't
and
know.
they just couldn't make it happen. I guess. Which I mean, they're both in the points. They're doing way better this year than they were last year. But I feel like they're just kind of on that struggle with
because
Ferrari.
he couldn't pass the Mercedes even with DRS, and the Mercedes doesn't have great straight line speed right now either.
Yeah, and like Lewis is like crying about how bad their straight line speed
Yeah,
is.
but yet McLaren, like Lando couldn't pass him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Is it the Mercedes powertrain? Because McLaren has Mercedes powertrain.
Yeah.
Or is it the aerodynamic setups?
But it could be both.
Yeah, potentially
I mean,
both,
did you hear?
yeah.
Did you see Alonso's comment? He's like, "Oh yeah, you won't pass this in a straight line." Like he was straight talking. He was chirping at both McLaren guys. He was chirping at him. He's like, "Yeah, you won't pass this in a straight line."
Well, and they have Mercedes powertrain too.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious if they're not producing as much power as they used to, or
Dude, they used to power everything.
So I'm not really sure the logic on that. Like, how did you get it wrong? Like, why not just go back to your old motor? Like last year's motor, because it seemed like they didn't necessarily struggle for straight line or power then, at least if it's power.
Well, and also it's my understanding too. Like the drivetrain and the positioning and things have to has to be different if they set up the chassis different. Right. Because that's, I think I was listening to like Lewis and like they're talking about Lewis's car, right? How he said it needs to be shorter. And so because they shortened the chassis to make the driver's like seat, I think a little bit further like forward or something instead of back so far. Well, now you have to move like the engine mounts and all this stuff, and like the transmission has to be like everything has to be different.
Moved around.
So are you functioning with like air even at that point, right? And like engine cooling, and so then all of that plays a role too, because specifically those like Saudi Arabia is what, like, other than I think Singapore, it's like the hottest race of the year almost.
Yeah, I did. I wonder if that was causing issues too for the drivers as far as in general, just the like McLaren straight line performance as well. Like, were the car almost running too hot, not an optimal, not optimal temp.
Well, and I think they're redirecting the wind that could be maybe used for downforce to cool the engine.
True.
So that could have an effect on their overall speed, I think, as well. But Red Bull sure showing that Mercedes concept can work.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, that car is fast as shit and flying, and
how did he win by another like 30 seconds?
it was a lot. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot.
It's wild. It's really wild how fast.
What about? I think Steak F1's gonna go bankrupt because of how poor their performance is.
Dude, I like, and like, Joe and Bottas are not terrible drivers.
Joe was driving really well, and then I think
Yeah.
he just got screwed by that. Obviously, he couldn't throw down a time in quality because they had a trans issue, and then
Well, he had that crash.
yeah, they crashed like
In
in FP2
three.
or no 3. Yeah, so it screwed him for the qualifying.
I was surprised they even got the car ready for quality, to be honest.
Yeah, it just missed
So-
it. They needed like an extra minute, and they could have made it happen.
Yeah.
But then he got up to the points, but I think it was on kind of pit cycles, basically how he got there, and
Yeah.
then he
And
got
then dropped back
shuffled
down.
back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure Steak is not.
I mean, I like
Not
the
happy.
car livery. That's about it.
Yeah, they look
That's
good.
about it. Alpine shit the bed again.
I guess that's one thing they got going for them is like, hey, you can't be as bad as
Consistent.
Alpine.
They're consistent.
Yeah,
Consistently in the shit.
I think. But I mean, Steak. I don't know if it's gonna be Audi Sauber in 2
Yeah,
years,
so
right? So it's like
they kinda
or is
just-
it next year? Is it 25 or 26? I can't remember.
I think 26.
Okay, so
Yeah, 26 because they're coming in with the new regulation and
Right,
new
right.
stuff, I believe.
So then is Steak kick F1 just for now, like this next 2 years, like
maybe
this
they're
year and
just
next year?
yeah,
like
maybe
an
they're
interim
just trying to
feeling,
get their
like-
name out there for a couple seasons and
I don't know. I mean, kick it. I know it's a streaming service, but like. I'm like, I don't know how much money you guys got in that streaming service. I mean, Twitch is big, right? But you don't see Twitch on.
yeah, but I think a lot of Twitch streamers are moving to Kick.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But they're paying like big people. And, like, there's a bunch of streamers that are getting paid for it. And so I'm like,
They
I've
must
never
have some-
actually even looked it up or even tried.
Yeah,
it.
me neither. They must have some big financial backing.
Yeah. So I'm curious how do they afford to A, get on an F1 team, and then B, because they're like a big sponsor on it. They're not
Yeah,
small, so
yeah.
it's not cheap.
Well, they share it with Steak and
Yeah. Which Steak's like, I wonder if Steak partially owns Kick then, because Steak is an online casino, is my understanding, or some type of gambling.
yeah, or
So-
like a betting thing
Yeah.
maybe, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm curious. I mean, I'm curious if they'll stay with the Audi team or if it's gonna just get canned after that. Like, will it be Audi Kick F1 race team?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Or
Audi
maybe
Kick Sauber,
maybe they'll jump into a
Audi
different
Steak.
car.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
Sponsors jump around sometimes too,
for sure. Yeah, like Monsters sponsored McLaren this year.
instead of Mercedes.
No, I think they're both.
I think it's both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the drivers are both sponsored, but I think Monster is on the actual car of McLaren too, not just the
Yeah.
because Lando and Piastri are walking around.
Is Lewis gonna keep his Monster sponsorship when he moves to Ferrari?
Well, new celebrity. I don't see why
You're in the
not
shot
because that's
too
an
now.
individual sponsor, right? So that's not a. Well, I think Monster would be stupid to let him go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think Lewis. Like, I don't. When I think of Monster, I don't think of Lewis Hamilton. So, like, I don't think Lewis is selling Monsters for them, but I think
Yeah.
now Monster is more so a media company like Red Bull.
Yeah.
Like, I think they started in energy drinks. Now they have obviously their YouTube and all the videos they sponsor and teams they sponsor and shit like that.
Yeah, because weren't they part of Ken Block too?
Yeah, Ken was
I think
sponsored
they
by
did
them for a long
and
time.
the other off-road racer, trophy truck guy, Baldwin.
He was.
BJ,
I think he was
right? BJ
sponsored.
Baldwin,
I think he was
I think.
sponsored by them by one time, but he's sponsored by Black Rifle now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think with Ferrari stock going up so much when they signed Lewis, I think it goes to show even how much athletes or celebrities have like a pull on national or worldwide economy.
yeah, I
know,
mean,
Like as much as like think about Taylor Swift with
the Chiefs. and
the
shit.
Chiefs now,
Yeah,
and the Kelseys and their podcasts blowing up. Like to
Yeah.
see how even just one influential person can have a huge sway on like the international marketplace is
For sure.
really wild.
I mean,
I
they said, sorry to cut you off. They said like the Chiefs like ticket sales and viewing went up like tremendously.
And jersey sales.
yeah,
I mean, like
which is so
200% or something
So
ridiculous.
stupid.
you know.
I'm
So
curious to see if Monster doesn't stay with Lewis, because I'm sure Lewis is not a cheap chick.
no way. No
I'm
way.
curious if their stock goes down or not, if for some reason
Yeah.
they don't stay with him.
I don't know. Well, like you said, like I don't know. It's not like Lewis is putting out a lot of cool videos on YouTube, you know, of like kind of like Ken, right? Was doing, or even because BJ was doing that too, you know, because I think that's the type of thing that gets a lot of sales
Right.
is the internet clout
clicks,
or what,
yeah,
you know,
they want the gear,
and
they
the
want the
views and
whatever.
the, oh man, okay, like, and I think it's cool to see companies like that sponsoring athletes. I mean, Red Bull started it off,
Right.
And we've talked about that and how cool and how the prestige of being a Red Bull athlete. And now Monster's kind of like, oh, okay, well, if you're sponsored by Monster, you do cool stuff.
Yeah, and if you go watch Supercross, like every weekend at Supercross, there's a Monster
and that's
video
where,
segment. It could be snowboarding, it could be BMX, it could be surfing. Like it's all Monster athletes, and obviously Monster sponsors the series, so you're gonna see
exactly.
that. But yeah, I mean, they definitely do.
And Rockstar's even starting to do more
video
too.
parts, and I mean, Black Rifle's doing that a ton.
Black Rifle now too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the concept works. It must sell,
which is crazy. Which I mean, and I don't. I mean, doesn't make sense. And
well, they're sponsoring NASCAR now too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
and Travis Pastrana and
yeah. So it's weird though to see like how are they getting paid off of views on a channel? Kind of the same thing like what you're doing with YouTube, but like how does Monster make money on creating a 1 million view viral video? You know what I mean?
Yeah. YouTube pays them.
One thing I did want to talk about is I saw a comment that if you have the correct thing from Christian Horner, if you have the correct things in place, why do I need Max? He made a comment
that no one person is bigger than the team.
Yeah,
but you know what? Like, that means himself too,
for sure. And
that
I think
yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, you could go through a Toto and Red Bull's or Toto at Red Bull, and he would probably win races.
Right.
I mean, and Toto's obviously has the experience and is successful enough. Like, if you take the guy from AlphaTauri or Gunther and put him at Red Bull, he'll probably do well for a time because it's already there. But then when you have to change shit, like, I don't know, how good is Gunther going to be?
Yeah.
I think.
Do we want to talk about the continuation of the Red Bull since we're talking about them?
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll just touch on too is like Max has got. I mean, if he sees that, and I'm sure Max understands. Like, yeah, but that should also give Max the confidence to be like, yeah, I'll go anywhere, and I'm still going to kick everybody's ass.
Well, and that's kind of, I think Max is sort of under the impression of like, look, I'm just going to drive.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And he's whatever the politics, like, I don't really give a shit. Like, if it's my dad or who the fuck ever it is, I don't care. I'm just going to drive. But he also, it seems like it might be clear that it's less about his dad. It's more about Helmet. If Helmet's gone, I'm gone.
And I'm curious how true those comments actually are, though. Like, were those paraphrased? Was that like, yeah, I like Helmet?
And did he say that, or did Joss say that? He said that. You know, like, we don't know. We really don't know until silly season's over. And
silly season never ends.
Shit happens. Yeah, and shit happens.
Especially 13 spots up for grabs.
I'm so stoked about that.
I'm curious. I mean, I still think a lot of those guys will stay in their place, or like they'll stay in this. They'll have a seat.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see, especially if K-Mag keeps being a team player, I don't see K-Mag not having a seat.
Yeah.
I did see, I think you sent it to me, that Ollie is technically supposed to be a prospect this year for Haas, but they didn't want him driving like an absolute shit car.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. So, which I mean, smart to have the car developed by people that know how to develop a car, right?
Well,
like
and also
seasoned rider.
Also good for him and his career, because let's say, well, for instance, look at Mick, right? His career essentially got destroyed by stepping into a shitty car.
True.
If he would have maybe got the opportunity a couple years later, or to be in a different team, like a Williams or something, maybe, even though Williams isn't great, but they're showing better progress.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe that would have then put him more in line, because, you know, he's reserve driver for Mercedes now. Maybe he gets an opportunity, you know, one of the Mercedes guys gets sick or something, he steps in, and then he gets to show us like what he can do in a good car.
Right. I wish that, it would be great for Lewis to call in sick one day.
I was gonna say George to call in sick.
Well, Lewis is gonna leave anyway, so you might as well like I mean, I don't care, either one of them would call in sick because I don't like either of them. But yeah, I mean, so kind of going into the Christian Horner extravaganza. So the last couple things I've seen is that the girl that accused him was supposed to go to court, and then she was on vacation or sick or whatever. And then she's also supposed to make some press release. So we're basically waiting any day now for this point to see what her theories are, and it's supposed to change the public opinion of Christian. Then I think you sent me something as well on like the mutual shareholders are kind of like there was some turmoil there, but then now it sounds like they're kind of getting on the same page to shit can somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know who that is. And then the last thing I saw was like this morning or yesterday that Helmet's under investigation.
Well,
too.
So potentially the rumor is that Helmet was the one that released all of the confidential things to the press, which I think we all kind of thought maybe it was the lady.
Yeah, and or
Joss.
Or
or
not
Joss.
Verstappen's, but Josh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joss.
But now it's like the rumor is that it was Helmet, and he's now under review.
You know, I kind of wonder if they obviously have this plan, right? Kind of like this inner.
Are they just trying to Are they just like the government? And they're trying to get us to think all this stuff's happening, and really underneath they're doing some other shit.
I honestly kind of think like maybe the higher ups at Red Bull are like, yeah, all publicity is good publicity. So if we're just constantly like, obviously we're going to be in it, but people are going to be bored with Max just constantly
Just
dominating.
winning.
So we need some other shit to make them think stuff is going down.
It's almost like a Hollywood series, right? Like,
oh yeah,
they're so dominant right now. Oh,
what could
but
happen?
yeah, they're gonna be their own demise. Look at it, like all the internal
It's
struggles.
like watching
and
Vampire
battles,
Diaries or something,
right? It's like, well, the other teams aren't good enough to make this dramatic and exciting, so let's make them create their own drama and internal turmoil. It'll be a whole different story.
Imagine Netflix right now, just like
they're loving it.
trying to
They probably
all the
they
backdoor
probably
conversations
curated how the
probably
season
teamed-
was gonna
yeah,
go.
they probably teamed up with it. Like, hey, we need
actually,
a little
guys,
bit more drama because last
yeah.
season was a little dry because Max was just
You
killed
guys will
everybody.
still be doing everything as normal, winning all the time, but we're gonna spice it up and pretend there's some drama going on.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some affairs. There's gonna be internal triangle, like love triangle. There's gonna be you know what? That's not enough. The heads of the company, they're gonna be fighting too, and it's gonna be 5 triangles.
Jesus.
It's gonna be a Bermuda Triangle.
And Australia's next weekend, so supposedly the Helmet might not be at Australia.
That's the next race too, right?
Yeah.
Next weekend.
Yeah. So I'm curious. My F1 fantasy team is absolutely dog shit right now. I mean, it's not doing bad in points, but everybody.
I'm in the lead, but just because I had a good first race, my second race was dog shit.
Yeah, I did better than you then. Verena is killing it, which I'm really.
She's like in
I'm not
second?
surprised by. Yeah, she's in second. She's like doing really well.
Join our fantasy. I will post again.
Did you actually post it last time?
Yeah, I posted last time, but our video got 2 views.
Sick.
We're really coming up, guys.
Thank you for. I don't know why we're doing this.
We're canceled.
Yeah.
We're canceling ourselves.
Probably because I was arguing with people about the jumping this start.
Yeah, they're boycotting us because of your social media presence on.
I've been trolling a lot of people on social media.
I think you just need to restart your personal account and troll people on that.
No. I'm not doing that.
You want to do it with our business account instead?
Yeah, it's way more fun. It's because all publicity is good publicity, and they'll all just go watch them. They're like, "Oh God, these guys are so stupid. I gotta go listen to their. I gotta go see how much more stupid shit they say." I mean, that's that's the theory.
Really. A lot. Apparently,
I've been getting a lot of likes on my comments though. There's like,
well, look, we have strong opinions, but I think that a lot of people also share those opinions, you know,
or they share the same view, but they maybe not say it, or they don't.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not actively.
If we're gonna get noticed, we got to be bold.
Yeah,
and like might not be the most wild characters, but we're gonna be we're gonna be us.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're gonna say what we think, and maybe it's wrong. Like, we'll change our point of view if somebody gives us actual fucking shit to think about, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think other people just want to spew shit too.
When somebody's got a very old school mentality, right? It's kind of like for golf, for example, right? Like you have the hoity-toity golfers that are like, oh, you have to wear slacks and you have to be there on time. You have to wear the glove in this hand and blah, 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 blah. And then you also have like the waste management, which is very known for being very rowdy.
Party, yeah.
And it's just absolutely party all the time. Those old school golfers, like Tiger admits, like he played it once, he didn't like it, it wasn't for him, so he doesn't play that tournament. Cool, by all means. don't go play that tournament. If you want to be by the book and stuck in the 70s,
Yeah.
by all means, sit on your couch, be a nerd,
Don't have fun.
don't have fun, don't evolve. I think everything's gonna evolve. It has to evolve. Just look at the technology, right? Compare cars in the last 10 years. And then in the way people want to hang out, the people what they want to experience. I'm not saying go party. Like, by all means, no. I know plenty of friends that don't party. I didn't party until I was like,
I don't party.
21 years old. So like,
Yeah.
I was very straight edge growing up.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
but I think now a lot of people are like, oh man, I can party and enjoy this, whether that's golf, whether that's F1. Like, that's why Vegas was such a popular thing, because people just wanted to go out and party and experience the F1 race because it's a hot topic right now.
Right.
So like, you're gonna have to evolve with it. I mean, who knows? In the future, we might have hover F1 cars. I don't know. You know what I mean? So isn't there a race? The rocket pack jackets, or didn't you send me that?
Yeah.
So I was like, that's pretty wild.
Those
Like,
jetpack.
yeah, the jetpack jackets.
Now they have like a race.
Yeah, like a league or whatever. I'm like, that's
pretty
crazy.
wild. Yeah.
So I mean, if
We
you
should
think,
watch that.
you think about it, we have rocket powered racing jetpacks. Like, hover cars really aren't far off. Like, I mean, it might not be in our lifetime.
We're now changing the channel to the
floating F1
hovercraft
racing.
the jetpack racing.
Might be onto
America.
something. Might be onto something.
Right.
I need to start a second channel.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Shamelessly plug it. I don't think I have the patience to watch that. I mean, it could be cool, but I think I'd get bored of that.
What we should do is just do like a reacts video to it,
That'd be
just
fun.
once, just to see, because then you'll get an honest reaction of what we really think.
This is stupid. Yeah,
Or we're like,
let me see here.
that was cooler than I thought. It seems like they're probably harder to control.
Oh, I'm sure there's
Right? Remember they did like a show at one of the F1 races.
The guy ate
And
shit,
the guy
right?
crashed.
Yeah. I was just about to say. I was just thinking of that.
That looks painful.
Oh yeah, because
You don't have like a lot of you don't have anything around you,
right.
and then you're falling from however many feet, 20 feet in the air, or like
Yeah.
whatever. Fuck, dude, that's
I
like
think he was
falling
coming
off
in
a
for-
2-story house.
Yeah, I think he was
with
coming
no
in for
protection.
landing, but yeah, still like just road rashed. Yeah, I mean, I'll listen. Like I said, I'll listen to anybody's argument.
Yeah,
And I'll take into consideration. I'll be like you're a Lewis fan. I mean, I can get it, but at the same time, I'm not gonna be a
fanboy with me.
No, it's not gonna happen. Maybe he'll change my mind at Ferrari, yeah. Like, and I think because he's also been at Mercedes for so long and they were so dominant. McLaren, you almost can't take. You have to take that with a grain of salt because that was a totally different era of car too, right?
Mhm.
So like he was at Mercedes during this long time frame. So to see him jump from car to car now, and if he could be dominant in Ferrari and another brand
And win another championship. Yeah,
then I mean, I already admitted, like, right now on paper he's classified as the GOAT. Him and Michael are like right there. You know, you kind of. I think people lean towards Michael because he was like so much legendary.
Well,
and he made Ferrari kind of great again, right? But
maybe Lewis will too.
I mean, I honestly
That would
hope.
be
I mean,
cool.
for the sake of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even grow up watching Formula One, and Ferrari is. I think.
I don't.
Ferrari is like the epitome of, you think of fast car, you think of Ferrari.
I don't think there's really any Formula One fan that is gonna say, "Oh no, I don't like Ferrari." Like, really? They're like the pedigree of the sport, right? They're the history. They're kind of the creator.
I think I saw a stat. They're the longest lasting team in Formula One.
Yeah,
So.
and they've always just been Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they've never been another team. They've never been partnered with another team. They've always just been Ferrari, and they continue to crush it. Like, even, they've had their drought. But I think we're starting to see a little bit of a rise from them again, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely being more consistent. They're putting consistent. This is like, what, the third year now they've put a consistent car, at least a fast car out there. It's not turning like totally missing the mark.
It's turning out that like Fred Vasseur is kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing, man. He's just kind of sitting back, biding his time at Alfa Romeo until he gets an opportunity. And now that he has some capital and and his back's against the wall, like, he has to make something happen with that team.
Who do they go get if Fred's not there?
Dude,
you gonna go get the guy from Williams?
Honestly, I would have never thought, like, after and Alfa. Well, now we're looking at Alpha now with Fred gone, how shit it's turned.
True.
So, but at the time I never thought like, oh really? Like I thought, oh, that guy?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you can see Christian going there, Horner,
oh,
or sorry, Christian or
like
Toto,
Ferrari,
or
yeah, like really, like
maybe the
Alpha's
Williams
guy. But
CEO.
now we see really what he's made of, and I mean, he's had a long history of working with the younger drivers, and so it's cool to see because Ferrari's not known for doing that, right? Leclerc was really like their first young driver, and so now they're looking that direction, which is cool, and he has a direct relationship with a lot of those younger guys from doing F1 Academy or I guess Ferrari Academy, right?
I didn't know he did that, but
Yeah.
I was gonna say, well, next year he
Because
doesn't really have a
that's how he
young
knows
team.
Lewis and everybody too, right?
He doesn't have a young team next year though.
No,
He's gonna have a very seasoned team with
Yeah.
Charles is obviously gonna be the younger driver, and you have Lewis, who's the most seasoned out there, minus Alonso.
right.
So, oh, actually, I got something else I want to talk about too. But so I don't know, like, is he gonna give Lewis that shot? And he's like, all right, cool. And then he's gonna go back to this kind of young, like, let's bring the young blood in here and see what they can do. I think everybody's got their reservations that nobody has the younger drivers don't have the mental capacity to like put a championship together, and that's I think what everybody wants to see. And then look how long it took Max to do it. I mean, Max didn't come out right on. Max was showing pace and wins,
Yeah,
but he wasn't putting together a championship.
And he showed the immaturity.
Yes.
Right? Like the just not being patient, wanting to win every single race instead of wanting to win the championship.
Mhm.
And even Lewis talked about the difference in that when he shifted into, oh, you know what? It's okay to consistently get second and third because that's what's going to win you the championship.
Correct.
Instead of having to get first, because I think Lewis was the same way when he started, right? I want to win every fucking race.
Yeah,
and because you have more to prove.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't.
Especially when you have the pace, when you have the talent and the pace, and you can.
Yeah.
And you could go rip a heater, like you can go.
Yeah.
You can just hunt somebody down, great. But any sport, any successful individual in a sport, whether it's motocross, whether it's F1, will say you win your championships on your worst days.
Yeah.
I've heard that from multiple racers.
Well, yeah, like how you bounce back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, can you pull yourself out of the hole? Can you shake off? I think even Lewis had talked about that at, a couple of years ago of like letting go of that race as soon as it's done, even if it's a win, right? Like that's why he never took the number 1 plate. It was because the next weekend he's number 44 trying to go for his best result.
Right.
And he took every single race as an individual, and
And you kind of have to do. I mean, with that could be applicable to life. It could be like I'm in sales, and like I could get somebody screaming at me on the phone, and I just got to dump that call. I mean, same thing with golf. Like you have one bad shot, I'll have a bad shot, but then I'll hit the next shot like amazing. You're like, what?
If you dwell on the last shot, you're gonna not be fully present in this one, and you're not gonna be able to do your best.
Correct.
That's with anything in life, right? So the ability to move on from the losses, to take the lessons that you learn from that loss, because that's really applicable to the next.
Like, oh, I shouldn't dive in on this corner because that's what that took us.
Yeah, like okay, I'm not going to do that this time. Let's learn from that, but I'm not
going to
dwell that I made the mistake.
Yeah,
I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to apply it to the next race.
So a couple things. Sergio has his back against the wall right now.
Yeah, but he has for 2 seasons
now. Yeah, I think it's getting worse. So I mean, a couple things with Sergio. I mean, Albon's already been already offered a contract, a 3-year contract at that,
right?
Which is wild.
But
and that's at the beginning.
But if
we're
he
not
doesn't,
even 2 races into the season.
But we know Red Bull cut him if he doesn't perform halfway through the season anyway.
Yeah, because he's already been. So I'm sure Albon's cautious about that.
Because didn't he have a 2-year contract the first time? He was in there fucking 3 months.
I don't know exactly, so I can't speak on that. So I'm curious. I'm sure he wants to get back in a pedigree racing car, right? Like a premier car.
Yeah.
Because we know he's not going to win anything in a Williams.
I think they should put him in the Mercedes.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. But then also I heard that Alonso believes he's a strong pick for Red Bull, which I'm not opposed to because that'd be sick.
I'd love to see him beat Max.
Just
the 2 people on the grid I don't like the most.
I kind of like how confident he is. Like, it's a different confidence. It's like I'm a seasoned vet confident versus like Max just like I'm fucking fast confident. Like,
I think is some of it maybe hubris though. Like
I think he does do it to poke buttons and kind of
like do you think you're better than you actually are? Like you won you won a back-to-back championship with a good car, and then you haven't done anything with your career since.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know, like
yeah, and last year was probably what his most successful one since,
absolutely was.
which is wild to think that it was so long. Like you were with,
Oh
did
my
you win
God, I
both
don't
at
even
Ferrari?
know. Yeah, I think he did
Or
go
was
Ferrari.
one at McLaren and one at Ferrari, or were they both at
Oh
Ferrari?
no, they were both with somebody different.
I don't remember. I wasn't watching. I know he has two titles. I don't remember what.
It was like
cars
with
they were.
Renault or something.
Oh, okay. So
Because I think he won, and then he went to McLaren
then he was battling with Lewis.
with Lewis.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm curious. You know, like you put him in a car. I think he has he obviously shows glimpse of pure speed and like just experience. Like you see him drive with massive experience.
Well, and he's one of those drivers that can maximize the performance of whatever car he's in.
True. Like the Alpine wasn't the fastest, but he made it work and got points multiple times.
And he's gonna outperform his teammate like by miles generally.
Yeah.
Other than maybe some of the greats, Lewis or whatever, but I think it'd be really interesting to see.
So you just throw them both in Ferrari.
Do you throw them both in, right? Just let them battle again. I think they finally buried the hatchet, but we can dig it back out.
I mean, and then he just starts a new one with Max. I mean, he considers himself as an option for Red Bull. I mean, I don't rule it out because of how they picked up Sergio, and Sergio was obviously kind of on his way out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the last 2 years, like this year and last year, you see Alonso, and actually even in Alpine, showing just, like I said, pure form of experience of driving, speed last year with being very consistent podiums the first half of the season or consistent top fives.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sure Red Bull has thought, man, this would be pretty, I mean, you think I take Alonso over Sergio, and if they're both in the same equipment, I want to say I lean towards Alonso because Alonso is just like a steel box. Like he's just going to drive. There's no I think in the car once he puts on the helmet, there's no emotion. I think Sergio will get frustrated and he gets overwhelmed. And
yeah, I think Sergio, the pressure gets to him. I don't think Alonso feels pressure.
Yeah, I feel like Alonso maybe doesn't have feelings.
He's a little sociopathic, right?
that's why they said him and Taylor were dating, and he's just maybe that's why it never lasted because he's like, yeah, all right.
I don't give a shit. Yeah. I think I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see.
The last thing on Sergio, I'd say is I just sent it to you today or last night. I guess he has a clause if he gets 125 points. Was that the number?
Yeah, like
behind Max, then his bonuses get cut and stuff like that. Which I'm like,
yeah,
that's wild. But there's definitely a bunch of different ways to create
motivate
and also do your contracts, right? Because maybe he's making a shitload of money right now, and then it's like, oh man, if I don't stay on Max's ass, then I'm gonna become, I'm gonna become broke. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's
better not go broke. You need a better money manager.
Yeah,
going broke,
but you know what I mean. It could be like, oh yeah, here's your salary of $100K a year. You're getting cut to $50K a year. And you're like, holy shit! That's obviously
significant lifestyle changes have to be made if you're overextending yourself.
I'm curious too. Is it that drastic? Is it we'll slowly start backing you off and then whatever. Yeah. But I mean, if Max does what we did last year, you could be in second place and you're still you're gonna eventually get 125 points behind.
How many points was he behind? Last year, quite a bit, right?
Dude, Max had
300 something or 400. I don't know.
I thought he was at 5 something. Maybe not.
No, because I think the team is usually
the team high. 5 something. Okay, so yeah, but I mean, he was definitely a couple. He was 100 plus ahead of second place.
We should look it up, but yeah.
So
interesting. I mean, more turmoil in Red Bull.
Absolute shit show. Absolute shit show. Let me see here.
I guess getting ready for the Australian race next week. I always think that's a fun race. It used to be the first race of the season, which was kind of cool now. And then I think because of COVID, right, it was off the calendar for a couple seasons. Now it's back on.
No, last year Max was 575 points.
He was. Wow.
Sergio was 285 points in second.
So he had well over 220. 30
so in theory, just based on that, okay, you finished second in the championship, but I don't
barely though.
Yeah, he only
barely. Lewis almost got him, right?
No, it was 234 to 285.
Okay. Wow, they were close. I think until the last couple races, and then yeah.
But yeah, Max has 19 wins. If he does that again, I mean, even if you finish second, basically they want Sergio to go 1 and 2 every weekend. Sergio and Max go 1 and 2 every weekend.
Yeah, but I think even if he does go 1-2 every weekend, he still might be many points behind him.
Right. So it's like,
He's
okay,
gonna need
like
to win a couple.
if you get to the point where, say you're finishing second, is that enough for Red Bull? Like, are they going to be happy with that? Like,
Right.
okay, like the golden boy gets it. I finished second. Like, everybody's happy.
They're like, that's fine, but you were 20 seconds behind. We need you 5 seconds behind.
Yeah. But then you just run the risk of, if you're pushing that hard, you run the risk of breaking the car.
With DNF,
you know,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
well,
that's
the
the
Red
one
Bull's
thing-
really showing a lot of reliability the last couple of years too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really want to see. I said this before. I still say I want to see Adrian Newey move to Ferrari with Lewis and Fred and see what they can develop that car
I gotta
into.
sneeze, damn it. So not to crash your dream here. Hold on. Excuse me. So I read something that as of right now, Ferrari's not looking at taking and poaching any of the Red Bull big engineers right now.
Well, okay,
Which it could change, and they could be throwing just like a bait and switch. You know what I mean? They could be talking.
True. But also, poaching or not, it's always been an option for him, for Adrian.
To go to Ferrari.
Yeah,
It's like a known thing.
Yeah, Ferrari's been wanting to have him on their team for a long time. As far as I
didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like a kind of a conspiracy. Somebody maybe you just made up in your mind that you wanted to happen.
Well, I mean, I did think that, but I think it was because there was also evidence of them trying to get him in previous years, and it just never really aligned. Because I think he wanted to do a road car, and I think Ferrari was going to give him that, but then Red Bull said, "No, we'll let you design ours." Right? But I don't know. We'll see what actually ends up happening with Red Bull's internal turmoil and if people start making moves. Somebody just committed to moving though to Ferrari from, I thought it was from Red Bull or from Mercedes maybe. Somebody from Mercedes moving with Lewis, I think.
I didn't know.
One of the engineers.
Probably his handler. Maybe they made up. I'm really curious on. I would love to see Max go to another team and be successful.
Just see how he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like that would solidify his dominance as well. Like his talent. I mean, you definitely can't deny like he's fast, but I would like to see how he would do in another car and if he'd be just like if. I mean, obviously, if it almost isn't changing much if he goes with Adrian, the Ferrari. So hypothetically, like 5 years from now, they go to Ferrari together. That doesn't necessarily change anything because he's still building the car and he knows what Max likes. Right. So it's like you kind of want to see him go to another team altogether and see how he does.
Well, Adrian had talked about how, he I think one of his bucket lists one would be to work for Ferrari, 2 would be to work with Lewis. Mm-hmm. So he could get 2 of those out of the way, making this move. If he's going to do it now, maybe is the opportunity because of whatever drama's going on in Red Bull, whether it's real or not.
Well, I mean, in the same light, like Max or Christian said, like, oh, as long as you have the moving parts in place, like nobody's bigger than Max, or
nobody's bigger than a team.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Max can leave, we'll still win.
Max has also kind of said the same thing. He's like, oh, why? He said, why would I leave? But there's been multiple other people that have said like Toto's openly said like we would love to have him. Anybody, if he's available, everybody's gonna go.
Of course, and anybody would be dumb not to take the opportunity for sure. Now, could they afford him? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he could throw a number out there.
Some other people less.
He would have to. He could throw whatever number out there and sees if it sticks. Mm. And he would. But I mean, it's not even seeing if he sticks. He's like, I think I'm worth $300 million.
Well, and the driver's salary is not equated into the cost cap, so that
where do you find that money to pay them?
Teams can pay them. Obviously, they all have money.
Like Ferrari, obviously, like they're selling cars.
Yeah.
So they could find the money, no problem.
Ferrari is the #1 car manufacturer when it comes to profit, like per unit.
Oh yeah.
And
I could totally.
They average like $175,000 profit per car.
I was gonna say, I think,
and every other car manufacturer is like 60, 30. 20. It's not even close.
Well, the one thing I will say is that you obviously can't compare like Ford versus fucking Ferrari, right? Like Ferrari's in another class of vehicle. So I'm genuinely curious how much it costs them to manufacture a Ferrari. Like, does it cost them $50,000? Does it cost them $100,000?
Well, so let's see
if to manufacture it, and then they're selling it for $300,000. So then, of course, their numbers are going to be
Well, and
way
that's
the
what
fuck up
that's
there.
what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it goes to show just how prestigious the name, right? And also, um, there are a lot like they probably don't make the most gross income out of any car manufacturer, right? It's not that they make the most profit per unit,
Right.
Because they have a limited run compared to other manufacturers,
Right.
right? It's like Toyota cranks out 50 models and 100,000 of each.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's just throwing out numbers, but right?
Right.
So you're like, oh shit, where Ferrari makes 2 or 3 models and they make maybe 100 each.
Yeah.
Right? So like their numbers are, but their profit is so much greater per unit. So let's say if like the 488 Pista is selling for close to 500, if they're averaging, almost 200,000 profit, then maybe they spent 300 to build it.
Yeah, and so
which is still a lot of money to build.
Which
so it shows the quality.
Which obviously you can't even compare like Aston to them because Aston has, I don't want to say reasonable, but like there's a couple Astons that you could maybe be a daily.
Yeah, like a V8 Vantage.
Yeah, or like the SUVs and stuff like that. Like you don't see the Ferrari cruising down the street. Like you don't see the one neighbor on your block with a Ferrari. Yeah, you don't see the one neighbor on the block with a Ferrari.
No, because also, they probably make a shit ton of money off maintenance, right?
Yeah.
It's like, just Ferrari brakes are gonna cost you like 40 grand.
I don't know how often you're doing the brakes, but I remember I took the Lambo.
Because you're not dailying it, right? You're driving it maybe 2,000 a year.
Yeah, so when I worked at Enterprise, I drove the Lamborghini Huracan. It's 2018, 2017. Huracan to the dealership in Orange County. The oil change on it alone, and I think we were getting a deal, was like $2,400. The oil change.
Yeah.
And only technically they could touch it.
I
forgot what they said, like your brake service was.
Probably voids the warranty or whatever, right?
Yeah. So it's not like, hey, I'm just gonna do the oil change myself. Blood lubricants.
Yes.
But, like obviously Ferrari is gonna be the most profiting car because of how the dollar values they have. But I'm curious, like, okay, like compared to, but how many like Bugattis do you see in the world? I think I've seen one in my entire life, in real life.
Yeah.
Or there's Aston, where there's Lamborghini. Is Lamborghini? I feel like you do see more Lambos now because they have that SUV version. Well, but that SUV still costs a shit ton of money.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you bring up, like, let's talk like Bugatti, right? Mm-hmm. Their car now is almost $2 million. So does it cost them does it cost them 1.7 to build it?
I don't think that's possible.
Probably not, right?
Like, I think because people don't like, the same thing happened with Oakley. People don't like cheap shit, right? Oakley used to be relatively cheap back in the day. Like when they first started. They used to be like $20, $30, $40. And then they weren't selling, and they did a rebrand, and they started selling them for like big numbers. And people were like, oh yeah, I need Oakley. And now Oakley is the #1 sunglasses, maybe next to Ray-Ban, which I think Ray-Bans are not that great, personally. I would go to Oakley, like if I'm buying glasses, I'm picking Oakley over any other brand any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean Oakley's more sporty too.
That's my lifestyle I grew up with, right?
Yeah,
like,
they're a little bit more sporty.
To the beach,
I have both, right?
Yeah, so
but they have different uses.
Yeah,
like my Ray-Bans are just straight like, oh, we're going on a date. I'm not doing anything active.
Yeah,
I wouldn't fucking wear them for that. They're not made for it. They're gonna fall off or whatever.
Right.
But where I wear my Oakleys to go on the boat. I'll wear them to go ride bikes or whatever. Yeah.
And so I'm very like tunnel vision when it comes to that. Though, like, I don't buy Oakley I buy Oakley because I wore them racing dirt bikes.
Well, they're also good quality too.
Yeah, for sure, and they have good warranty.
Yeah,
but it's crazy to see. It's also annoying. It's like, oh man, you guys were cheap at one point. Like, I would have bought you all day long.
Yeah,
I would have bought like 5 pairs at a time.
Well, look, like blenders. I own blenders now, and they're cheap.
Yeah,
I like them.
I never pulled the trigger on them. Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do, and they have a ton of styles.
You see, they did one with Red Bull. They have those Red
Bull.
Yeah,
Max. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen a couple people buy those, and I've actually asked one of my buddies had some, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a Red Bull edition."
And they make goggles and stuff.
Like,
now?
Oh, I didn't know they were Red Bull editions. I'm like, how do you not know they're Red Bull editions?
Actually, the ones that I have are that famous skim surfer.
Austin Keane.
Austin Keane,
Yeah,
yeah. I have his edition.
Nice.
So they're like, I don't know, I like them. And actually, Jen got them for me for a present. I don't think she even had any idea. It just was like circumstance. I was like, oh, money.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So point of that whole side tangent is that people don't like cheap shit. So like, which is also very annoying in the sense of like, just because you throw a tag out there, it makes people want to buy it, right? I do think the people that drive Bugattis, Ferraris, I don't know. I've been kind of changing my outlook on this too, though. So initially thinking the people that buy Bugattis are probably thinking that they're gonna appreciate in value versus depreciate in value. Like you go buy a Ford Focus, like it's gonna you drive off the lot, you lose 30%.
So it's more of an investment asset versus
like people with like Rolexes and people buy certain watches because they are gonna appreciate. In theory, they should appreciate in value, which makes zero sense.
Well,
right?
and then
you're using the car.
They're also the type of people that are like, okay, if it's an investment like that, like you probably have money and you understand how money works, and you're not trying to be flashy with it, so you're gonna not wear that watch. You're gonna keep it in the box.
Yeah.
It's gonna appreciate. Just like you buy that Bugatti, it's gonna stay in a temperature controlled garage, like everything,
you
and
drive
you barely
it to an
drive
event,
it.
like you drive it to the red carpet or something like
right.
that. But on the same token, I just saw something like in the last month that said like, so say it's Louis Vuitton, Michael Kors, any of these big name brand bags, right? People that own or people that like have wealth don't buy that.
Right.
They buy fakes so that you think that they have it, so then it pumps the brand up, and then because they know that the money goes farther than the Louis Vuitton bag.
Right.
So I don't know what to think.
Well,
so
it's like the famous Louis Vuitton has made billions off of poor people trying to look rich.
No, for sure. Yeah,
and that's true. Like that's really what it is. It's like people who don't really have money but want people to think they have money buy those things. A lot of people that actually have real wealth, they don't give a shit about what you think or how they look or, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I've had a fake Louis Vuitton and I've had a real Louis Vuitton wallet, and I mean, to be honest,
you almost can't tell the difference.
Yeah, and I had a buddy that literally I had the same print as he had. I had the fake one in my pocket. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just got this wallet." I'm like, "Oh yeah, check that out." And I threw it down side by side. I'm like, "You think it's real?" And we asked somebody from our office, like, "Come in and check it out."
Yeah.
They like couldn't tell a difference. And I mean, you could get fakes now. And I paid.
I don't know.
Randa paid $20 for that fake.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was the best $20 you could have ever spent.
I've got some stuff from like an underground market where it was not $20, but I think it's real that was stolen maybe. I don't really know. But I got like a belt, a wallet, a bag, you know, and it's like, all right, I maybe paid like $300, but that would have been $2,000.
Yeah, for sure.
So and if it's a fake, you wouldn't, I can't tell.
And just kind of going back to Ferrari being the most profiting, right? Like it kind of doesn't make sense. It's like, you don't know what to believe because half the world's a facade and fake and everything's staged anyway. So it's like, okay, like who's really buying a Bugatti? Is it just all the guys in the Middle East, the oil guys that are like
potentially billionaires that
just
money doesn't matter,
super trillionaires, you know, and it's like doesn't matter and they just drive around, or
well, even the police force has Bugatti there.
Yeah, so it's just like, dude, like it makes zero sense. And then in the handful of Ferraris you see around here, it's like, okay, do you buy it as an investment to rent it? Like, I don't know.
I would buy it to drive it because I love cars. Like,
well, actually, I changed my mind. I've always wanted a vet because my grandpa had a vet, right?
Yeah.
And I could see myself, cool, it's like still a sports car, but it's not over the top. You could find one reasonable. Like, you're not selling your house to buy one. Well, then I'm like, okay, why am I going to buy that? Like, with the shit I do in life, I feel like I'd rather, if I'm going to spend, you know, say $100,000 on the new vet, or I could go spend $100,000 on a boat. I'd probably go buy a new boat because I'm going to get more use and pleasure out of that. Because the vet, I still have to do 65 on the freeway, in theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't, we don't have an Autobahn.
I'm not going to go track it.
Yeah, I mean, I could track it, but I'm going to drive it.
And then.
I'm going to drive it.
You're not going to drive it to max.
Once a quarter at the track. Like, it's like, shoot. Like, and then it makes you start thinking, like, there's so many different things. And now this turned into, I don't even know what this turned into. But it's just crazy to see, like, Ferrari has those numbers and like who's buying it, like how is there a marketplace for Ferrari, but the pedigree of it makes zero sense.
Might have to just cut this segment into rants and then we'll do it. I'll put the closing section on the back of it.
Fair enough.
We have been talking about doing a life pod. We should just we could do an extended.
We'd probably be more successful.
Be like F1 America After Dark.
I do want to do one of those.
Yeah,
but it's gonna get bad.
The boys behind F1 America.
It's gonna get real bad.
All of our dirty secrets. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see that. If we get this video to 500 likes,
500.
Maybe views, 500 views.
No, whoa! I think that's doable.
If we get this video to 500 views,
we'll do what?
We'll do F1 America After Dark. All of our dirty secrets aired. My dirty secret. I got dirty secrets.
I think you're missing the concept of After Dark.
Isn't it like naughty stuff?
Yeah, it's naughty stuff. But,
yeah. That's where my secrets are.
You gonna tell them about Myra? Myra Hand.
No, I didn't have to do that.
Anyways, Australia, who are your picks?
Red Bull, Max. Who else? I think McLaren could be good at that track. Although straight line speed, they gotta get that figured out. Ferrari's up there. I think really our top 2 picks are probably Red Bull and Ferrari.
How do you think DR does?
Meh, mediocre.
Points or no points?
I think he's gonna be just outside of like 11th.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Does Yuki finish the race?
He'll finish, but it's gonna be anticlimactic.
Any surprises you think we'll see? I heard some people are bringing upgrades, but I forgot who. Is it Mercedes? Might be Mercedes. Or Alpine.
I was gonna say Alpine, but dude,
I don't think they
their upgrades are gonna
help
into last place.
Yeah.
I think who could be a surprise could maybe be Haas. I think Haas could be the surprise because their race pace is like they're putting a lot more into the race pace versus their 1 lap pace. I think their reliability is getting better. If they don't get penalized, I think that they'll both finish top midfield.
I like it.
What about you?
I'd probably agree with most of that. I think
first.
I think Mercedes, since you didn't say anything about Mercedes, I think they'll kind of be doing the same thing they're doing. George will probably do better than Lewis.
Yeah.
I think Lewis is trying to do whatever he can with what he can, but right now I think it's going to be a Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren for at this point in the season.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start
running
away with
going to
their
be able
points.
to step up a little bit?
I do think Alonso actually, I did want to say he could be a sleeper. Because we talked about it so much, like he's got so much experience.
Yeah.
I saw a comment that they think they can catch Red Bull, which I think that's a bold statement. And I don't know if he's just saying that because publicity.
Wants to,
and he just wants to like kind of poke the bear and maybe get under somebody's skin. I mean, I don't count him out though. If Sergio and him are on the same pace and like they can battle, I think Alonso
could get a second place.
He could get a podium for sure.
Yeah.
Like last weekend, I felt like they were a little slower than the Ferraris, but
yeah,
I think
see how Sainz maybe does.
I think Alonso is going to play the long game and try to see if he can be another, if he can pull out another top 4 in the series or top 5, or like another top 5. I think he wants to be on the podium for the championship.
I'd be interested to see how Aston Martin continues, their car development throughout the season. Where last year we saw them like right out the gate. Obvious second place car, and then
heavy.
Really fell off the pace, right? So I wonder if maybe they didn't start off quite as hot, but they're starting off good, and they're just going to continue to gradually get faster and faster.
They'd rather ramp instead of like plateau and fall.
Yeah, I think see a little bit of a difference, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, as much as you're not an Alonso fan, I wouldn't mind seeing Alonso. I mean, Stroll actually credits to Stroll. He's been driving good too until he wrecked the car last weekend. Yeah, he wrecked out.
Yeah.
That comment was funny. He's like, "Can you move the car?" And he's like, "No, I'd crash in the fucking wall."
Yeah, I'm in the fucking wall. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
So,
and it was interesting to hear the commentators kind of say like, some of the timing screens is like a little delayed. Yeah, so that radio message kind of came in. He didn't know if the car was still moving, I guess. Well, how many times does Stroll tap the wall too?
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, bring the car in. So they don't know exactly the severity But I think a lot of times they do, because don't you see the telemetry? Like,
Yeah, you'll
it's
see the
like,
sensors and all that shit.
wow, like he just hit 6G running into the wall
Yeah.
at 100 miles an hour. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Like you said, no, I'm in the fucking wall. Like,
I wouldn't mind seeing Aston Martin as a whole do better. I don't think Stroll will ever be on the caliber of being a race winning driver,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
yeah, he's really stepped up in my book. I like him a lot more than
I would agree.
and even Lawrence, I used to think kind of he was a shark, and maybe he still is, but I think I have more respect for what they're trying to do, and I think it's kind of cool to see them growing.
I think they Drive to Survive definitely helped them this year.
Yeah, maybe in the past made them look kind of like assholes.
Yeah, and I feel like though to be at that level of business, you kind of have to be a shark, right? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
Like
you don't get to be a billionaire just by sitting on the fucking couch twiddling your thumbs.
You gotta definitely make some big moves and do some crazy stuff and not take any shit. And I think just Lawrence definitely does that.
Yeah,
and he's like,
he's a presence, I think too, right? He's like a big dude, but I think his energetic presence is even bigger than his stature.
Yeah, I think he's probably intimidating to an extent until you get to know him. And I think once you get to know him, he's probably like a really. Like, once he's in your corner, you're like, oh, dude, I can take on the world.
And it seems like he's made it clear, like, as much as he wants to win, his family's the most important.
For sure.
And I think that kind of shows, like, okay, he's not just a sociopathic robot. Like,
he's not going to be like Christian and just sell his soul.
He cares about the family and, like...
Actually, speaking of Christian, I did, at the last race, what's her name, Ginger? Is that her name?
Yeah.
No, Ginger?
I don't know. Sporty Spice or whatever.
Yeah, whatever her name is, Spice Girl. She was there and she was smiling. So
yeah, but I think a lot of that was for PR.
I'm sure, but
and they're holding hands and taking pictures.
I'm sure that if it is true, how difficult do you think it is? Like, it's not going to be easy to put on a front unless they're both just out fucking around. We're here for the publicity.
She could pull some tail too, man. Who doesn't want to hang with Sporty Spice? Even if they are 50. I mean, look at Victoria Beckham
taking shit. Oh, dude. Oh,
right?
Dude.
Yeah.
Taking sugar mom applications. Victoria. I mean, David Beckham's a good-looking guy too. Oh, so dude, I mean, I'm not even
sure.
So,
have you watched their series?
No, I've been wanting to.
We started. It's actually really good.
Really good?
I like the two of them.
I want to.
I need to keep.
I grew up watching soccer because my family and stuff like that. And then we would go to the Galaxy games. We watched him. And,
yeah, I mean, he was such an icon growing up.
Yeah,
it still is.
Yeah, I think his kid will be really good too. Hopefully, and kind of not filling his shoes, but definitely following.
Man, it's so hard, right? I mean, look at Mick and Michael.
Yeah.
It's so hard when your predecessor is like such a legend.
Yeah, and I think too, just then, like, you had those couple breakout people here and there. Like when Lewis came up, like Lewis was the next guy. But now, like, look how many guys are so fast or so good at whether you could fill in. It could be golf, it could be soccer, it could be F1, it could be dirt bikes. Like, when those guys came up, there was like, okay, there's 1 in 10.
Well, and I think
and
that's
it became
the
1 in 5, and now it's like 3 and 5 guys are just as good as that one guy was. And you're like, shit. Now it's so much harder.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Especially in a sport like soccer.
Well, and I think it's so rare. So many things have to go right in somebody's life and career to become the GOAT, right? Or even things have to go wrong enough for them to capitalize later on that you just don't know in the moment, right? Like, look at Tom Brady even, and how many seasons he's put in, but his, like, he almost didn't get drafted, right? He basically was like a walk-on to all these teams. And
he was the
second string, got an opportunity, and then never looked back and never stopped working hard and I thought he was an arrogant prick for the longest time. I didn't like him until I started learning more about his story and where he came from and all this stuff. And it was like, oh, I can respect that now that I actually know, kind of that story. But let's say his son comes up and wins a couple titles or something, and you're like, yeah, you're good, but you're not your father, right? Because it's so rare to put together a career like that, right? Like,
yeah, and like, look at Charlie Woods, Tiger Woods' son right now. Everybody is hyping up, and he's almost under too much of a microscope because Tiger was so great. Don't get me wrong, and he's played on a couple like father-son tournaments, and he's shown like how good he really is. But then he went to go qualify like a month ago for an actual PGA event, and he had a really bad hole that ruined it, and that's why he didn't make it.
Mm.
But everybody's like, he's such under a microscope that it makes it almost ruins it to watch him like come up, because he's only 14, 15.
Yeah.
So he's still
It's
in high
hard to
school,
live
and
up
it's
to
just
that
like,
pressure too, because everybody, no matter what level, everybody's comparing you.
Yeah.
And so even if
and the times have changed too. Like Joss Verstappen versus Max, like the cars were dinosaurs, and like they're driving spaceships.
well,
you know, in
and it's
comparison.
easier. So to that point, it's easier for a son who, let's say, your father won one championship, he was good, but he was never the greatest.
Right.
It's easier for a child like that to go after becoming better than them.
Yeah.
It's hard for a Mick Schumacher to be better than Michael.
Yeah.
Because Michael's a once in a generation,
Mhm.
right? And so it's not that it can't happen. It's just, when have we seen two
From the same
phenoms,
bloodline,
right? Like,
No, for
you're
sure.
both gonna be good.
Yeah.
You're both probably gonna be champions, but you're not both gonna be the GOAT.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think I've ever actually witnessed that in any sport.
I don't think so. It doesn't happen. Because it's
Yeah.
not just about being good, it's about all the stars aligning for many years for you.
And yeah, I mean, everything has to go right. I definitely think it makes it easier for the child of whoever it is, whether it's boy, girl, whatever, coming into the sport, because their parent has some names, some pull, some connections.
You have more opportunity out the gate,
yeah,
probably.
And then obviously,
Mhm.
but it's obviously on you too once you put in the work and
Yeah.
everything. And there's
But
been some guys
There's
that
the
I've
pressure that
been like, now that kid's spoiled, like he's obviously already ahead of the game. And then they slowly proved me wrong, but then you could definitely see tendencies of like, oh, well, you got there because your dad was there, or your mom was there, or you know, you have that because you were buddy with this guy.
Well, I mean, actors is kind of the same too, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, like you got the opportunity because your mom or dad's a big name actor, and now, you know,
Then you blew up. Like, okay, you started your own TV show, and then
you're probably good, but you're like, maybe you relied on the name more than you relied on the craft.
Yeah. Until
in
you
any
got
sport.
to, I mean, and totally, if you got to use that to get to the point and then prove yourself, then I mean, do what you got to do.
Dude, I have no fault, man. Especially like as I
Take
get
advantage of
older,
it
you
while
know,
you
it's
can,
like,
yeah.
dude, fucking use that.
Yeah.
Like, you were fortunate to be born into it.
Yeah, like
Use it to your advantage. Take,
Daniel
you know,
has a kid like Ricardo, like
yeah.
and he gets into karting and he makes his way up, like, you know,
Don't squander the opportunity.
for sure.
Like, utilize it, because I think there's a million of us that wish we had the opportunity,
No, for
but
sure.
it just wasn't there, you know.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this thing up because we did like 4 tangents at this
Forward
point.
everyone. Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. Like, share, subscribe.
Shoot us any questions if you got questions, or if you don't want to listen.
Maybe
to
I'll
us.
start doing the race recaps and do like little short stuff that's just like straight to the point racing, and see if maybe those videos continue to boost us. Just let us know what you guys want to see. Honestly, I think right now we enjoy doing these videos together, so that's what's coming up more often.
Yeah.
But if you guys need more content and want to see some of the just straightforward like race
These are good.
stats, this is what happened, or anything, let us know.
These are good for the Spotify too, though, because like I feel like it's a good chunk, and when you're driving, it's easy.
Yeah, so I'll put a link to the Spotify too, because I think people aren't seeing that yet. All these episodes now are going to be on Spotify. You can check it out for podcast stuff if you're driving, just to listen to us rambling about stuff. Maybe put you to sleep if you're having trouble sleeping at night, you know.
Yeah.
Just put it on, we'll bore you to death.
Well, Bella's sleeping, so
Finally.
right on.
Awesome.
Peace out, Girl Scout.